Okay guys, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about the verb conjugation in German language. To begin, I would like to tell you the difference between the infinitive form of the verb and the root. The infinitive, for example, can be schreiben, gehen, arbeiten, baden, sprechen, sehen, to write, to go, to work, to bathe, to speak, to see. And to get to the root of the verb from the infinitive, we just need to remove the en from the end, and then we have schreib, geh, arbeit, bad, sprech, and seh. So that's the way we get to the root of the verb from the infinitive. And we're going to need this root to conjugate the verb. On the next page, we're going to see exactly how that's going to be done. We saw as an example the verb schreiben, and the root was schreib. Now how do we conjugate it? Ich, I, schreibe. So we see that for the pronoun ich, there is an I at the end of the root, which is a conjugation. Du schreibst. For du, there's an st at the end. Sie, es, he, she, it, schreibt, with a t at the end. Wir schreiben, with an en at the end. Ihr schreibt, with a t at the end. And Sie schreiben. They write with an en at the end, and of course, sie groß, sie formell schreiben. So the formal u also with an en at the end. And what we see here is basically the root of the verb Stamm, plus the appropriate ending for each pronoun. Ich, I, du, you, sie, es, he, she, it, wir, wie, ihr, you for the informal form of plural, sie, they, and sie groß, sie formell, you formal. On the next page, we're going to see verbs whose verb endings or whose verb roots end with a t or a d. For example, the verb arbeiten, to work. And we see here the verb Stamm, the root of the verb is arbeit, with a t at the end. What this basically means for our conjugation is, first of all, ich arbeite, totally normal, nothing new here, with an I. But for du, normally we use an st, we add an st at the end of the root, but if we were to add an st here, we would say du arbeitst. It's somehow hard to pronounce. So we add an I also to make it a bit easier. Also for sie, es, he, she, it, we say sie, es, arbeitet, because saying arbeitet is a bit illogical and a bit hard to pronounce. So we say arbeitet with an I to make it easier. Wir arbeiten, also nothing new here. Ihr arbeitet, again with an I. And sie und sie formell arbeiten. So what we see here is that for du, sie, es, and ihr, we add an I to make it easier. When do we do that? When the root of the verb ends with a T or a D. We'll see an example of that also later on. On the next page, I'm going to talk about a third kind of verb. Those are the verbs with a change of vocal in the middle of the verb. So basically, it looks like this. The verb sprechen, infinitive, and the root is going to be sprech. The first example is ich spreche, I speak. But the second one, du sprichst. We see here that our e from the verb Stamm turned into an I, or e turned into an I. The next one, sie, es spricht, also an I. Wir sprechen, ihr sprecht, sie und sie formell sprechen. What we can see is that with du and with sie, es, there's a change of vocal from I to I. You can also see that here. Hopefully that's clear enough. There's also other kinds of changes in the vocal. Sometimes the E turns to an I, sometimes the E turns to an IE, sometimes a normal A turns into an umlaut with 2 points on the top. There's different kinds of changes which you will learn with time. Now let's see some examples. We see here, ich, Gitarre, and the verb is spielen. The root is spiel, as you can see here, underlined. And the ending for ich is e. So the answer would be ich spiele Gitarre. You can also pause before I give the answer, try to give it yourself, and then compare. The second one, Paula ein Buch. This one's a question with the verb at the beginning. And Paulo is basically the third person singular, he, and the root of the verb is schreib. What do we say? Schreibt Paulo ein Buch with a T at the end for he. The next one, du bla bla nach Hause. The verb is geh, and the pronoun is du. So what do we add at the end of our root? At the end of geh, st. That will be du gehst nach Hause. The next one, with the roots ending at T or D. Maria bla bla bis 18 Uhr. The verb is arbeiten. The root arbeit. And Maria is the third person singular. She, sie. So what do we need to add? A T at the end. But what would happen if we added a T at the end of arbeit? It would be arbeitet. A bit hard to pronounce, isn't it? So we add an E also. Maria arbeitet bis 18 Uhr. The next one, ihr heute. The verb is baden, to bathe. And the question would be, badet ihr heute? Or will you bathe today or will you swim today? But then E here to make the pronunciation easier. Otherwise we would say badet, which is also a bit hard. The next one, bla bla gern Pferde. The verb is reiten, to ride. So what do we need to add for a T, but reitet is a bit hard. So we say reitet, reitet gern Pferde. We also add an E here. The next examples we're going to see are examples of verbs with a change in the vocal. The first verb here is nehmen. Ihr bla bla ein Taxi. How are we going to conjugate that? Should we say ihr nimmt? Should we change the vocal? Or should we just say ihr nehmt? Nehmt ein Taxi. The answer is ihr nehmt ein Taxi. That's a completely normal conjugation. Why didn't we change the vocal? Because we only change the vocal when we have du or sie, es as our pronoun. And here we have ihr. You, the plural version, not the singular version. So we don't need to change the pronoun, change the vocal here, sorry. The next example, bla bla nach Italien. The verb is fahren. And for we add a T at the end of the root, so it would be fahrt. And there's also a Vokalwechsel, there's a change of the vocal, because it's so it would be fährt nach Italien. The next example, du bla bla den ganzen Text. The verb is lesen. The pronoun is du. We would normally add an st to the root, which is here les. But as you can see, there's already an s here, so we just add a t instead. And we have to change the vocal because our pronoun is du. So the answer is du liest den ganzen Text. On this page, you can see a few exercises for yourselves. You can pause the video, try to do them yourself, and then compare your answers after pressing play again. And the answers are, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment below, and don't forget, like the video if you liked it. Have a nice day.